Okay, so you've got a buyer, but do you? That's really the first question, is how do you qualify or vet or just confirm that this buyer really is a buyer? A buyer being someone who is going to actually buy a home. And I know that sounds obvious, but sometimes you think, hey, a buyer is someone who I'm going to show homes to. But ultimately, this needs to be someone that's going to transact and complete a sale with you. Otherwise, this doesn't make sense for you. They're not really a buyer if that doesn't happen. Let's talk about a few things that you can do to qualify a buyer. First and foremost, this is where having a good relationship with a loan officer or a lender that you can work with and coordinate your efforts in terms of qualifying a buyer. You really benefit by knowing that that buyer is financially capable of purchasing a home, or financially capable of purchasing a home at the price point that they're asking you to view homes. And so first and foremost, you want to have a relationship, a rapport with a mortgage loan officer somewhere. That person that you trust to be thorough and also handle your clients in a similar way that you would, so that handoff and that coordination back and forth is really seamless from the client's perspective. And that just overall improves their experience with you if there's some consistency when they're working with that loan officer. Really, you have to back this up a little bit. I know we're talking about, okay, you have your first buyer, but even before you have your first buyer, that's really the time to make some calls, set up a coffee or a lunch appointment with a mortgage lender, maybe stop in at their office, let them talk to you about how they work. This is a chance for them to explain their services to you, how they work with a client, how that works with you. It's easier to do that before you have a live buyer, but if you're at that moment, you have a live buyer, let's talk a little bit about how you would make that handoff. So the handoff between you and the loan officer, there's a few things you can think about. First of all, just from a consistency and fair housing standpoint, you want to be cautious about saying, hey, I can only show you homes if you are pre-qualified. You can do that, you just have to make sure you do that for literally every single person that you work with to avoid possible claims of discrimination. We do have a whole section we'll talk about compliance and ethics and etiquette and fair housing later. But this is one of those moments where it's really key. That being said, there's huge benefits to getting your clients pre-qualified. So you'll send them to the loan officer. Really, that loan officer should ask all the questions, but you can ask some initial questions like, have you already worked with a loan officer? Do you have a sense for what your credit score is? What type of work do you do? And how are you paid? So meaning like, do you have pay stubs or do you have other sources of income? You can ask some of these initial questions. The specific answers don't matter as much other than they give you a softer sense of, is this someone who is likely to be able to be qualified? And either way, you can't give them the answer, hey, thanks for sharing that. Yes, you're qualified. It's just, thanks for sharing that. You know what, let's go the next step and connect you with a mortgage loan officer, really confirm what's the right program for you, what's the mix of down payment versus just overall loan amount that you're going to get, as well as just what that payment is. And maybe you qualify here, but your comfort level is well below that. Or maybe you qualify here, but the house you want is actually less than that. Or qualify here and the house you want is way up here. So all of that happens. The earlier you can let that loan officer help you set those expectations realistically with the client, the better off you'll be, the more useful your time with the client will be, because you'll be looking at properties, making offers on properties that they're actually in a position to purchase. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you learned something or if this helped you solve a problem, follow me for more.